I'm very excited to announce the next speaker. Fun fact, this next speaker and I actually worked together at AWS before then she changed roles as solutions architect. So it was very interesting that I actually introducing my coworker. So I am very excited to introduce Victoria Seaman. She's a developer advocate at AWS. She's actually a one of the top cloud influencers as described by Wiz Labs. She's helped launch Digital Twin Maker with Siemens and Mendix as an Industry 4.0 application. And she will be talking to us today about making application development accessible to all with low code and AI. A round of applause for Victoria, everybody.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. This is my first time at GITEX, and it's been quite impressive. So as Aisha said, I am Victoria. I'm based in California. I'm a senior developer advocate. We actually started at AWS at the same time. It's been almost 3 years ago. So today I joined by Tim, CEO of Mendix, and we will share about latest advancement in application development and how they really transform and open up new opportunities. So I will start by sharing some of the recently launched AWS generative AI services and talk about how you can use them to build end-to-end applications beyond chatbots, right? So we're all kind of done with chatbots at this point. So in general, since ChatGPT has been announced, there has been a lot of hype about generative AI, right? There are so many applications and tools that are being introduced almost every day. And some of them fading away as quickly as they're emerging. So maybe some of you heard about applications that's called Lensa app. Who heard? Can you raise your hand? Lensa app, upload a few pictures, and it would transform you to like astronaut or some kind of hero, yeah? Yeah, so, yeah, I see. Yeah, so it really became popular. It went viral in December 2022. And then in January, its revenue dropped by 92%. And why is that? Well, because they had a very thin software layer on top of somebody else's powerful API. So they used open source, and they currently use open source Stable Diffusion model, and there were a lot more startups that came and started making similar applications. So it was a good idea, but it's not a defensible business. So what I really want to talk today about is how to build deep-level integrations, how to build complex integrations end-to-end that will deliver the value in the long term. So at AWS, we provide full 3-layer stack, so starting from infrastructure, AI accelerators, right, that allow you to train and deploy models, machine learning platforms, and AI services. We have over 240 services, so if I had to describe right now all of them, I would be here till tomorrow. So this is not going to happen. I will talk specifically about 2 services. So first is Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart, and second is Amazon Bedrock. That's a new service that became generally available on October 3. So quite exciting. So first of all, how do you actually access foundation models? So one way to access foundation models is using APIs. And Amazon Bedrock provides the easiest way to build and scale generative AI applications. So you basically select a model, and you can choose from a wide variety, from proprietary models to open source models. And you can also fine-tune them. And it's really easy because you use one API, and you can change and experiment with models. What's good, because it's serverless, if you don't use it, you don't pay. So it's really cost-effective. Second way to access it using Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart. So Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart is a machine learning hub where you can find over 150 open source models and proprietary, and new models are being added on weekly basis. There are also some of the solutions that are already pre-built for common use cases. So you can find cloud formation templates that will have reference architectures, and you can deploy and start right away for some of the use cases. You can, of course, fine-tune models with SageMaker because you deploy it on your own, you provide a data set, and then you can adjust some of the weight parameters in your LLM. And all of this is fully integrated with SageMaker Suite tools, so you can utilize some of the capabilities in SageMaker. Okay, so now what I want to do, I want to talk about these two services and how you can get started, and I prepared some demos so to bring things in life. So with Amazon Bedrock, the first thing that you need to do is select a model. And it's not like there is a one model that's going to rule the world. You really have to think about your use case. What kind of modality, right? Whether it's text or image, what different size of model, and based on this you will select based on performance and cost. Then once you select a model and you experiment, then you can customize it with your own data. So you can provide different data sets in Amazon S3. You can train it. You can provide also optional validation data set, and then you can use your own data. All of this, you don't have to do any kind of coding. So you can use console. And you can also connect to vector databases. So vector databases now commonly used for retrieval augmented generation. And you can connect right out of the box with a Pinecone, OpenSearch, and other databases. Also in Amazon Bedrock, you can break down complex tasks and use agents to execute tasks for you to get the data from those vector databases and provide better response compared to what you would have if you only used LLM, right? Because LLM doesn't have the context of your domain specific. So let me now show you a quick demo so you kind of like understand what I'm talking about. So the first point where you start with Amazon Bedrock is with Playground. So Playground provides a really great way to start experimenting. So first thing, you can enable different models. Once you enable the models, you will see them in the list in your console. So I enabled a couple models on my account. Then I went to Playground, and here you can see I selected text. I select Anthropic, Cloud version 2, and right away I can start prompting a model and see how it responds. So here I'm asking to provide me a very sophisticated prompt. Tell me about hummus recipe. And you can see I got ingredients, I got all the steps, and on the right side, I have all the inference parameters. So I can adjust them and see how model reacts to it. I can put, for example, stop sequence to control my cost. And then once I'm done, I can click copy API request, and I can put this into my IDE, and now I can use this as any other API request for AWS services. So it provides a really quick way to, first of all, start very easily, but then use this code as a code snippet and put it into your IDE. Okay, so now let's talk about Jumpstart. So with Jumpstart, it has more models currently. So you can find Cohere, you can find Llama 2 from Meta. Similarly, you can experiment with models using console. Then you can deploy them in your infrastructure. You can fine-tune models based on your domain specific. And because the model will be deployed on your account, all the data and the logs will be stored in your account, right? So it's not going to be shared with a third party. And it's fully integrated with other SageMaker tools. So let's see here a quick demo. So now I'm in the SageMaker console, and I click Foundation Models. Now you can see the list of different foundation models. You can experiment with all of them. Once you find the ones that you want to try, just click View Model, If I click View Code, it will actually transfer me to a GitHub repo, so you can find samples. Or you can open this in SageMaker Studio, and here right away you see there is a code to deploy model. So I just execute this code, and the model will be deployed on my account, and I will get inference endpoint that I can use, call now, and execute. So once I'm done with this, I can also, there are examples provided. So now I set up my payload, and now I can ask Llama 2 to provide me a hummus recipe and compare Cloud V2 to Llama 2. So those are different examples, and you can see did a pretty good job with even emojis to make it more fun. OK, so now this is all great. Now we understand how we can access foundation models. But building enterprise-grade level applications requires a lot more than just access to foundation models, right? You have to think about security, observability, and many other aspects, including integrating with other AWS services. So here's an example of enterprise-level LLM that was built. So you can see here at the backbone, it does utilize SageMaker. But in addition to SageMaker, for example, if you want to save data, it's stored in Amazon DynamoDB. And then all the logic is created by using Lambda functions, right? And then you invoke them from API gateway. So this was done by a news agency, and they have over 25,000 employees. So but for large companies, it might not be a problem to create something like this, and they were actually able to build it in 6 weeks. But this requires a team of data scientists, developers, right, to put application like this. So now imagine what if you could just simply, like on this architecture, drag and drop DynamoDB, SageMaker, and go through a wizard and set up configurations without coding. Wouldn't it be nice? I think it would be nice, right? And that's what you can do with low-code, no-code tools. So here's an example of Mendix Studio Pro, where you can drag and drop Amazon Bedrock connector. And now just by double-clicking on it, it's going to open a wizard, and you can provide all of the configuration and start building. So personally, I'm really excited about low-code, no-code tools and how they democratize application development. So Mendix is a leading low-code, no-code platform, and AWS strategic partner. So they provide a lot of different integrations to AWS services, so you can start focus on how you can build differentiated product rather than writing undifferentiated code. And what I'm really excited about, that it provides ability for people that don't know how to code to create this kind of end-to-end applications with deep-level integrations. So now I want to invite Sim to talk more about different use cases and explain more about Mendix. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. Nicely set up. I want to talk a little bit about why this is so important in today's time to have that abstraction and automation layer to basically push out innovation. So we believe at Mendix that actually software development is a team sport. So we need to bring multiple disciplines together to build these mission-critical, high-impact solutions. And we think about that kind of from these three personas. So in the middle, obviously, is the developer who needs to develop the application, and he or she is operating in the IDE, which we call Studio Pro. Studio Pro is a model-driven approach, so we're using visual building blocks basically to represent logic, to represent the data model, and so on and so forth. And that's abstracting complexity away, which actually allows the left-hand side, right, the business user, to participate in this notion of software development. So it's really about that iterative approach between business and IT to think about, okay, what is it actually what we want to build, but we also want to build it the first time right. So that interaction becomes increasingly critical if you want to push out innovation. And then on the far right side is basically, obviously, you want to make sure these applications are secure, they are governed, they're fitting into your landscape. So we're also addressing the needs of an enterprise architect in this context to make sure we are building actually these high-impact, mission-critical use cases. So Mendix is focusing on the entire software development lifecycle, so from ideation, so really tapping into the business knowledge, creating that portfolio, to the build part, which is really the development cycle, the deployment. Deployment becomes critical as well, depending on where you operate the application, and then also the maintenance part to obviously make sure over time you can upgrade and maintain. And if you think about low code is really an abstraction layer across the entire stack. So we started abstracting complexity away on the cloud side. So our public cloud actually sits on AWS. So it's basically a one-click deploy from our IDE, so you don't have to worry about the deployment side. That basically now goes into the next stage about data integration into these core systems. If you want to build business type applications, you obviously want to access data from your CRM, you want to access data from your ERP and so on and so forth. And we are basically providing connectors so that you can access that data from these core systems. But it's not one direction only, it's bi-directional, so that you can also write back into these core systems and trigger basically processes. And then we're going one step further and accessing now also data fabrics to make sure we can basically build these applications on domain-specific data fabrics. Also here we are partnering with AWS on what we call industrial data fabric. So there's a lot of data which is contextualized in the OT area and so on and so forth. And the next step now is to build smart and intelligent applications. And for that, we also provide solutions, and I will touch on that in a second, on how we can access the latest gen or large language models and basically put generative AI into the Mendix application and into the hand of the end user. So if you think about this, why is this important? I mean, obviously we all are coping right now with a lot of external challenges, be it geopolitical, be it environmental, be it societal or economic. But on top of that, you have that fast-paced innovation. If you look at generative AI, it's obviously the fastest adoption we've ever seen of a new technology. And so we need to think about, as companies, as customers, or organizations out there, how can you adapt your organization to these trends? How can you stay competitive? And this is really where that abstraction automation is critical from a time to value perspective, so that you can respond fast. But you also tap into the expertise of your business to make sure you're building the first time right. And I want to show you how we enable that from a Mendix perspective. We think about it in kind of a dual strategy. I mean, a lot of talk is out there around these co-pilots, so AI-assisted development. Mendix implemented AI-assisted development back in 2018, and obviously now from AI and machine learning, we're now expanding that to a generative AI approach, and I'm going to show you that, how we do that. And then on the other hand, we are focusing on, again, the business user. How do we put generative AI in the hand of an end user? Because all of these technologies, be it blockchain, be it IoT, they were really thriving in a B2C context, but not many are actually really having an impact right now in a business-to-business context. So that's what we are focusing as well, together with AWS, how we do that. And then obviously we want to do that in a responsible way so that it's governed in the right way and it's not used maliciously. So if you focus on AI-assisted development, we have a couple of concepts in our Mendix IDE where we enable basically that co-pilot mechanism. One being LogicBot is really focusing on developer productivity and developer learnability, so that you focus on basically providing next steps to the developer. It's still basically it's not generative AI yet. Then it goes into best practice spots. So this goes one step further and tries to basically detect anti patterns so that you build in a secure way and that you also make sure the performance of your applications is top notch. And then beyond that, we have some delighters where we focus on what we call the domain model, again, where the logic sits and where basically your data or information is flowing, and also support that. And then going from here to obviously what we call Mendix Chat. And Mendix Chat will become the interface towards the IDE. So again, co-pilot mechanism, which helps you actually, if I start the demo. So this is the domain model basically, where you see how a Mendix application is built. It's different micro and nano flows which are being executed here, and you have these building blocks. And with Mendix Chat, you basically will be able to type in certain elements, and at first it will provide you a contextual support in the form of text, and over the time we'll be able to create aspects of the application through that chat interface. To make that a bit practical, here you see a fictitious company. It's called Lado Bikes. They're in the bike business. They're basically manufacturer of bikes, and they basically have a shop. So in this case, you see as well the chat interface. Okay, here it's about contextual support. What's the right naming convention in order to build your microflow? So that is what you can see here. So that's the first step, really contextual support to help you build. And then if we go one step further, this is where actually parts of the application will be built. So I'm describing about, again, this domain model. What is it? I want to have a product return process being executed. Now I give contextual support in a sense of what should that process do when I execute it. And then basically, you see that here now, the domain model is automatically created. So again, these are these visual building blocks which make sure an end-to-end process is being executed. So this is where we go from a AI-assisted development. But I think what is even more important is to focus on how do we change the solution landscape out there. So you see on the left-hand side, as similar to what Victoria was explaining, we can integrate with an API the latest large language models, be it OpenAI or be it AWS Bedrock. And on the right-hand side is something we call machine learning kit. And that's very important if you think about areas where you have where you need offline capabilities or you need low latency. That could be in a shop floor setting. And what this does, you can basically, again, with your data scientists can create a model. You can convert that model with an open standard into a module which Mendix can actually read, so that you can drop and drag that into your IDE, and which allows you then to run these models in the Mendix runtime. So side by side with your application, which has a huge impact on performance and latency. And again, you have the variety of models out there which you can use, such as Hugging Face, the likes, to basically now put the latest models into the Mendix application. And to show you what you can do with that, again, we have a fictitious case. So here, focusing on the generative AI capabilities integrating through an API. And we do that here in this case with the insurance provider Cacti. That's a fictitious company. Okay, that's a fictitious company, which is, sorry, I got one step too far. So fictitious company on the right-hand side, operating a customer portal. And I think all of you are aware of the tedious sometimes dealing with your insurance provider, right? You want to have a certain information, you want to have it quick. So what we focused on is here a customer portal which integrates with an API into the latest foundational models through Bedrock. So Stability AI, Anthropic, as well as Amazon Titan. And now we look at what you can do with it. So the first use case is really, again, Victoria was discussing it, a textual support. So we created an intelligent chatbot, which basically is now the interface on how you interact with your insurance provider. And what does that solve, right? It solves two things. On the one hand, it boosts customer satisfaction because obviously you create a large database of answers, so you will always provide a better answer, contextual answer. And then on the other hand, also the operational efficiency of the insurance company is being boosted because you no longer have hotlines or generic bots answering it. They will be self-learning, and over time they will provide better answers than your agents can do, or any generic chatbot. And then we can take that one step further. I mean, we all know how tedious it is to look through all the documents you get from your insurance provider. So what if you can basically summarize that, again, here in this case through AWS Titan, and you provide that contextual support. So in this case, only the main things of your insurance policy are being highlighted. So this is, again, about customer satisfaction and about providing the right levels of service. Last but not least, obviously, we can also think about image generation use case. So this is more of a marketing use case to really provide it in a personalized setting. So depending if you look for travel insurance, you look for home insurance, actually the interface of the application will update. So to summarize it, again, Victoria was talking about complexity. Looking at that architecture versus the other architecture sheet, it's basically Mendix is abstracting away all the complexity and just integrating with an API call. And through that, you have that visual interface again possible, and you can do the drag and drop into your IDE. So very straightforward architecture, and it's enabling a first business use case. It's still in a B2C setting if you think about it, because obviously you're dealing with insurance provider and then an end customer. But we can take that one step further, and we actually were working with our owner, so Siemens acquired Mendix back in 2018 on a use case with SageMaker. So if you look at the status quo where they were running their manufacturing operations with a spreadsheet, so based on Excel. So it was a manual process, error-prone, and they did basically the shift planning for their workers in Excel. And you can imagine that is not a scalable process, and it's a very error-prone process, and if a factory is down, that has a huge cost implication. So what they've done is they use that visual model of the factory, which is actually accessing a core system, in this case in the PLM arena, so product lifecycle management. And then we connected basically AWS SageMaker. And AWS SageMaker is now looking at data, if you will, and is automatically planning shifts for these workers. So, and it's considering things like availability, like sick leave, and so on and so forth. So it ensures that the manufacturing operations is running. And it works in an intelligent way because it's an auto scheduling, which is basically happening, so you can respond quicker to different scenarios, be it sick leave or any other external factor which might occur. And then beyond that, we also integrated into core systems. So if a worker showed up for a shift, automatically we can do time writing into SAP. And so if you think about that, it's not just that one process of scheduling your workers, but it goes beyond that to make your enterprise basically a digital enterprise. And with that came time savings, it was a more resilient production, and obviously it's a scalable process which is much better than Excel. So with that, I bring up Victoria again on stage to wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you for those wonderful examples, Tim, and I really love the demos. I think they bring things to life. So I just want to finish with some of the key takeaways. So first of all, I want you to understand that at AWS we provide all 3 layers, and customers leverage AWS to build foundation models, to utilize foundation models and build the AI-powered applications. Second, no code, low code is really there to accelerate your journey, right? So with all of these tools, you don't have to write the code because there are already pre-built integrations that are made for you. And the last thing, with AWS and Mendix, we really focus on enabling these complex integrations, integrating to enterprise systems and building high-impact solutions. And you know, I am a big believer that the best way to learn is by doing. So I prepared for you a few resources to get started. So first of all, we just released Amazon Bedrock Workshop. So if you want to experiment and try utilizing foundation models, you can go through this workshop. It provides hands-on labs. Second, if you want to build your own application, there is a course on Mendix with Academy, and also it provides all the detailed steps on how to build an application, and you can download and do it for free. And lastly, to stay up to date on all the recent announcements and all the recent updates regarding our partnership, you can save this QR code and it will bring you to the webpage. So with this, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to today's session, and I hope you found it helpful. And we have 1 minute for questions.
Yeah. 1.5 minutes. Questions, okay.
Hello, I have a question for Tim. So this is Kashif. I'm a great advocate of low code, and I also develop in Mendix. So over the last year, I've trained 10 people in Mendix. Yep. They had a background in development, hardcore development, but I had a hard time making them accept Mendix as a low code. Hello. Like, I had a hard time to make them accept that they can develop very complex applications on Mendix. And same is the case with enterprises. When we go to them and ask them that they can build their solution with low code, they have a hard time understanding it. So how you think we can increase that acceptance and adoption rate? And my second question is when you guys are launching the Mac version of Mendix.
So the second one is easy. So Mac version will be available early next year. So beta will be available end of this year, and then so to say the GA will be available early next year on Mac support. But I absolutely agree with your point on it's hard to convince first high coders to basically develop in low code. And we have a methodology. So I think if you look at the Mendix community, 80% of expert developers coming actually not from a high code background. Usually they're coming from a business analyst background, but this is also the power of it, right? Because you're increasing the pool of development capacity in your area. So that's a huge advantage point also of Mendix, that you can do that, because already today IT is bogged down by a lot of work, right? They have a huge backlog. So that is one. But secondly, we believe in this concept of a digital execution practice, which basically focuses also on internal promotion. What we've seen in Siemens, just to give you an example, they've built 900 applications by now, 900. And they are returning a triple-digit million saving per year through these 900 applications. And what they focused on early on is building a community. And that community created a flywheel where more and more people believed in what they can do. And I think what is important also to understand, it's not about and or, it can be both. We have a lot of examples where something got built in high code, we make it actually consumable through a low code, so API basically, right? We wrap around it, we can consume it in the Mendix application. And I think that's the power of it. If you show that what they've already built becomes usable and actually makes it into more applications than just one. I think that's the power, and I think that's what we need to focus on. How do you build that community? How do you find these use cases? And how do you tell those stories in your organization so that you create that flywheel?
Thank you so much, team. That's all the time we have questions for. Thank you, Victoria. Round of applause. Come on, we can do better than that. Thank you. All good things, unfortunately, must come to an end. So we are at the end for today. PyCon Mira, this is the last day, but Global DevSlam still continues tomorrow with Java and DevOps and Kubernetes. I would like to give back to David, the organizers of PyCon Mira, to close off. Thank you.
We can do it. So I just want to thank everybody again for coming to these last 4 days of the PyCon Middle East Africa. And I do want to encourage everybody to continue to come tomorrow also to the DevSlam events that aren't the PyCon ones, but are going to be very fascinating, and all of your badges are getting you in. I also wanted to, though, reiterate in closing some remarks of several of the last speakers, which I can't say nearly as well as they did, but the things that Iqbal said, and the things that Manny said, and the things that Nick said yesterday, and that Aisha did about community, I think are absolutely essential. Many of my greatest friends in the world are people who have come here to speak, or whom I've met here and at other conferences like this. And every one of you can participate in creating the same things, whether you live here in the Emirates or whether you are coming from somewhere else. Form communities like this, form conferences like this. It doesn't have to be this big to start with, it can just be meetup groups, but you get so much out of having a technical community of people who share these technical interests, such as the wonderful things that were talked about in these last 4 days.
Yeah, very, very true. And if you want to start up something, if you want to grow the community in this area, then please contact us, and we will try to help and make this possible in any way we can. So now we need to close the conference. I think it was an excellent 4 days, and I would very much like to first thank all the speakers who were here, who gave their presentations, and did an excellent job with that. So thank you very much to the speakers. I would also like to thank Pawan and his excellent team, and the excellent video team here we have for running such a smooth show. And of course, I'd like to thank all the attendees who came to the conference and actually, made everything a great show. So thank you very much, and have safe travels home. Hope to see you again next year, and that's the end. Bye-bye.